The sun drops below the horizon. The temperature falls 10 degrees in an hour. The world you can see shrinks to the size of whatever your fire can reach. Everything beyond that edge, you have no idea what is out there. This is not a power outage. This is not a camping trip. This is every single night of your life for 100,000 years. So what did you actually do? Most people assume the answer is simple. You slept. The sun went down, you closed your eyes, and you woke up when it rose again. It sounds logical. It is almost completely wrong. The night was not empty. It was one of the most important parts of the day, and what happened after dark shaped the species you are today more than almost anything that happened in daylight. Here is what the evidence actually shows. The first thing you need to understand is that ancient humans did not sleep the way you do. You probably sleep in one long block, 7, 8, maybe 9 hours if you are lucky. You set an alarm, you wake up, you start your day. But in 2015, a research team led by Dr. Jerome Siegel at UCLA studied 3 hunter-gatherer groups, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, people who live without electricity, without artificial light, without alarm clocks. What they found surprised almost everyone in the field. These groups slept an average of just 6.25 hours a night, and their sleep was not one continuous block. It broke into pieces, it had gaps. The Hadza in particular kept waking up in the middle of the night, sometimes for an hour or more, before returning to sleep. And they did not treat this waking period as a problem. They used it, they talked, they tended the fire, they moved between shelters. The camp was quietly alive at hours when every person in your building is unconscious. Historian Roger E. Kirch, who spent decades researching pre-industrial sleep patterns, found that this two-phase sleep, what he calls segmented sleep, was the historical norm for most of human existence. People had a first sleep, woke for an hour or two, then had a second sleep. That middle period was considered valuable time, not wasted time, not insomnia, valuable. Your ancestors were awake inside the night more than you think. Now let's talk about what they did around the fire. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiessner at the University of Utah published a landmark study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She had spent 40 years studying the Juhwanzi Bushmen of the Kalahari, and she analyzed something specific. What did these people actually talk about during the day versus at night around the fire? The difference was stark. Daytime conversation was almost entirely practical. Where is the food? Who saw what animal? How do we move camp? Daytime talk was logistics. It was the running of a small human organization. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. Around 70% of nighttime conversation shifted to stories, myths, accounts of distant people and places, tales of hunts gone wrong, of conflicts resolved, of spirits and animals. The firelight night was when culture got transmitted. When the rules of the world got explained to the next generation not as rules but as narratives, stories you remembered because they were dramatic, because they were told by someone whose face was half lit by flame and whose voice carried weight in the darkness. Wiessner wrote, "There is something about fire in the middle of the darkness that bonds, mellows, and also excites people. It is intimate. Nighttime around a fire is universally time for bonding, for telling social information, for entertaining, for a lot of shared emotions." This is not a romantic observation, it is a functional one. The firelit night was the operating system of human culture. The daytime ran the hardware, the hunting, the moving, the surviving. The nighttime ran the software, the beliefs, the relationships, the shared understanding of who we are and how we treat each other. And the fire did something else beyond storytelling. Before humans controlled fire, early humans lived roughly half their lives in the dark. The only light came from the moon when skies were clear, which meant predators were invisible, and every night was a negotiation with something you could not see. Fire changed that permanently. A fire ring at the entrance to a shelter kept cave lions back. A fire in the center of a camp created a perimeter of light that extended your awareness by 30, 40, 50 feet in every direction. It converted darkness from a threat into a background. Archaeological evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, where fire use has been traced back nearly 1 million years, shows that humans were using fire inside shelters long before the famous cave paintings. The fire came first, the storytelling followed, then the art on the walls. Because there is one more thing ancient humans did at night, one that required both time and imagination. They made things. The bone needles found across Upper Paleolithic sites in Europe and Asia were not made during daylight hours when hunting required full attention. They were made at night, by firelight, hands moving in the warm circle while the camp settled around the maker. The carved ivory figurines, the ochre beads, the symbolic objects found at Hohlefels and Vogelherd in Germany, dated to around 40,000 years ago, took hours to make. Hours that could only come from the night. Dr. April Noel, a Paleolithic archaeologist at the University of Victoria, has argued that we have dramatically underestimated how active ancient nights were because archaeologists themselves are daytime creatures. We have constructed a picture of ancient life bathed in sunlight when half of it happened after dark. The night was craft time, story time, the time when the group repaired the social damage of the day through conversation and laughter and the kind of talk that only happens when the firelight is low and defenses are down. Now reconstruct the scene. It is 25,000 years ago. The sun has been down for 2 hours. Your group of 14 people is gathered around a single fire. 2 hunters have already gone to their first sleep. 3 children are half awake, listening to a story an elder is telling about a mammoth hunt that went wrong 3 winters ago, a story that also teaches, without announcing it as a lesson, exactly which valley floods when the snow melts. Someone is working a bone needle by the light of the flame. Someone else is checking the fire ring at the entrance. The temperature outside has dropped another 5 degrees. Something large moved in the darkness beyond the perimeter about an hour ago and has not moved again since. You do not know what it was. You probably will not know until morning. For now, you stay inside the light, inside the story, inside the warmth, inside the group. This is not primitive. This is not simple. This is human culture at its most fundamental, running on nothing but fire and voice and the oldest instinct your species has: stay together in the dark. Modern humans sleep in isolated rooms, in silence, alone or with one other person. The alarm collapses the night into a single block. You spend your evening staring at an object in your hand while the people in your house exist in separate rooms. Your ancestors spent every night of their lives shoulder to shoulder around a fire, talking until sleep took them, waking in the middle of the night to talk again, making things with their hands, telling stories their children would remember for the rest of their lives. The sun dropped below the horizon every single night for 100,000 years, and every single night they knew exactly what to do. You were built for the dark, too. You just forgot what you were supposed to do in it. If you're curious what ancient humans were actually afraid of out there in the dark, that's the next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it.